Hey, so how's it going? You see, even Katie Floyd is willing to read these life emails now. So clearly Cancer was a good marketing move for readership. So yeah, although it doesn't make any sense that you would read this and not know, given, this is the exact same email list, it's worth repeating. I have Hodgkin's lymphoma, aka cancerous death. And now don't get me wrong, I intend to maintain a semblance of typical life. Update emails, even though that means risking my newfound readership. But cancer is kind of a big deal for me, so things are probably going to be a little bit different this time around, especially since it's the first life update email in my post my lie in September. Now, as a tangent, I realize I'm a very odd man. And you should already know this, but you should already know this generically, but I'm odd in a specific way that I had not previously anticipated. See, as soon as I figured out I got cancer, my first thought was, oh no. It was not, oh no, it was, all right, what cool things can I do now that I have cancer? Don't get me wrong, there has definitely been oh no moments over the week, but interesting, most of the time has been spent out thinking, well, now that I have cancer, I can get a monk haircut, Thomas Aquinas style, and there'd be minimal social repercussions. I mean, look at this hair! Is anyone not excited for the chance to have a haircut like that with minimal social repercussions? And if you aren't excited, clearly something's wrong with you. See, I have this deeply ingrained habit, I don't know, not being optimistic per se, but taking advantage of sucky circumstances. I fully acknowledge this sucks. I'm not just ignoring or discounting the probable outcomes in which things go very badly. But, I'm trying to leverage the badness for gain. For example, sure, my cancer, is upended. Unfortunate? I'll say unfortunate. But that means I have more time for philosophy study. And sure, I'm going to be terribly sick, but that means I can binge anime without feeling bad about wasting my time, because, I won't be able to do anything else. Plus, that 48 I got on my thermo quiz doesn't matter anymore, so that's nice. I know, I say it often, but, I really like Owl City's line, every mushroom cloud has a silver lining. And apparently, I really like to scrape off that silver lining, blend it up, add a touch of ruthless pragmatism, and drink it as a smoothie for breakfast. So yeah, anyway, I'm doing well overall, especially more as the week has worn on. I'm getting accustomed to my new reality. I have up and down days, but overall, I'm back to approximately normal levels of emotional well-being. That said, I have a life of human rights, so I shall inform you of all the developments in chronological order. Let me go over what's happened in the last few days since my last live email. Saturday, I spent a lot of my day writing the last live email. I was feeling pretty down that day, but I realized once I told you what was up, I wouldn't really have the heart to tell you I wouldn't... I was feeling pretty down that day, but once I told you all what was up, I wouldn't really have the heart to tell you I wouldn't... I really wouldn't have the heart to tell / you wouldn't care what happened prior to cancer. Who cares if Alex is sad about how, absent the bacon pub burger is? He has cancer. Answer, I care. You don't understand how that burger was so good to me. That late bacon pub, it meant a lot to me. He'll be ever missed and live on in my heart. Pretzel bacon pub burger. So yeah, I powered through the writing of the last life email, being sure to keep the most recent medical events vague and unemphasized, in the line with my operation, my lie in September. I finished all that around 5. I got it all sent out, and then directly after that, I went on a walk over to City Park while talking with my aunt, who's not actually my aunt, Marion, who is mom's friend and is an ex-pediatrician, aka cancer medical person. So yeah, I talked some, and it was good, though I'd already learned most of the things she was saying from my own research, and so it wasn't necessarily informative, but she was knowledgeable, so that was cool. I then worked on printing this very cool letter in the font of Violet Evergarden for my D&D campaign. I can now reveal where I got the font from because they already decoded the whole letter. Absolutely crazy. So yeah, here's a picture of the burnt version. I had them roll a luck check to see if they get the burnt version or if they got the really good version, and they got a really, really good version. I finished getting that printed, and that was an ordeal, I must say. I then watched Blue Walk with Mom, had food, and then took the opportunity to use my arms one last time. I will say, as far as Beat Saber record goes, I did quite well. Thus, for a final glorious moment, I reclaimed my old Beat Saber glory of old. Well, at least until my arm heals. From there, I had time to kill, so I bought Moss 2, which was a continuation of the VR puzzle game I really liked back in the day, and I played that till late. The next morning, I had church and got to enjoy one last round of normal lunch bunch before magic, and from there, I went over and had a pretty good game of D&D at Neon City's house, which the food was big yum. After that, I read my Bayesian epistemology anthology, while others had B-Stud, since I've officially left Neon City's Bible study, and then I played Halo on a team with Alan until Neon City beat us. It was at that point I witnessed Neo's Alan rage quit for the first time, and it definitely was not flattering. I really just didn't expect that from him, if I'm being honest, and I understand more why he wants to stay away from situations that would cause him to act that way. Still, we've decided we're going to go on a creek walk sometime and talk it over and see if we can figure out how and why he reacts that way, and who knows, maybe that vice will be remitted soon. Well, at least that was the plan prior to me having cancer. I assume it's still valid, but we'll see if that's been clarified. Anyway, that happened. Neo and Sydney all then played a game of Halo Firefight, where just the 3 of us, since Alan didn't want to play after that, and from there I went home, did Funme, and then went to sleep. Monday was my last day of my lie in September, so I definitely felt that as I woke up. Still, I tried to put the ever-nearing reality of cancer out of my mind and enjoy my last day of normalcy. That said, after about 20 minutes of trying to pay attention to my thermal lecture, I realized I could not vote myself to care about if a graph, depicted a saturated vapor or liquid. Hence, I decided to leave class early, and as I was biking home to go do some 3D printing, Neo spotted me and called me over, and so I came over to him. Called out, and so I came over to him. At that point, I decided, hey, it's my last day of normal life. Might as well give, whiteboarding a try before I become cancer-bound. Thus, I bought myself a Subway sandwich and joined him and Liam at the whiteboard for the next few hours. It was very interesting. We didn't get many people, and Nia pointed out that my ploy of playing devil's advocate was probably the unsuccessful because it looked like, a very in-group conversation, not a student talking to Neo. And so the conversation was probably too high level for most people, but still, I had a decent time. From there, I went to work where I noticed a non-trivial increase in my ability to put up a cheery disposition. E.g., I was running low as my emotional batteries were cancer taxed. Hence, as the day nears end, I asked if I could go home early, and Rebecca agreed, so that was good. Once I got home, I just recharged a bit before going over to the Balance House, grabbing Neo and Alan, and then driving to Monday nights over at Joe's. Oh, right, dropping off Alan at Timberline Church as we went. And yeah, as soon as we got there, I did a garbage pre-session with Johanna, and then we had some food, and our second D&D session got underway. Honestly, it was absolutely fantastic. It totally absorbed me in the moment, and I forgot about cancer for almost the whole time. And once again, everyone did really well roleplay-wise. It was a bit rough introducing Johanna to the party, though, as people were as people got to experience the real self / what my character do tension for the first time. In character, they had reason to be suspicious of Johanna's sudden joining the party, but I think it was navigated decently well. Honestly, I had such a great time, especially as people tried to decipher the letter I made for them. I definitely thought it would be cool to have them. I thought I'd have to give them more clues, but nope. After an hour or so, they figured out the whole letter. And yeah, that was it. The last day of my lie in September. And with its close, the third era, which I need to name now, and I need a better name than the cancer era, of my life began in full. The next morning, I woke up early, not by choice, but because I was nervous for my surgery. I couldn't eat or drink anything, because surgery. But honestly, I got lucky, since that was basically how my mornings usually went anyway. If you're going to go get surgery, get it in the morning, so that way you can, have the time you don't eat match with the time you sleep. Morning surgeries are like airplane window seats. I officially decree it so. So yeah, nervously awaited the time to leave. I then watched some anime, but honestly, I didn't really remember what I did. And then when the time came, Dad drove me to UC Health, where they let me keep my underwear on and gave me a warm blanket. Honestly, as I was waiting to get cut open, it was definitely the worst part. They put an IV in my arm and put me in a surgery gown, stuck me in bed, and they were like, "I command thee, wait." And I was timidly like, "Okay." And so wait I did. However, the longer I waited, the more time the dread of what was going to come got to work on me. And thus, over at least half an hour of waiting, I got non-trivially anxious. Here's a picture of me being non-trivially anxious. For 30 minutes, I was just singing Noah's rendition of Slay Queen from the D&D night prior in my head, trying to distract myself. Very effective distraction, I must say. Oh, also they let me keep my necklace on, so that was great. So yeah, once my time came, they gave me 1,000 milligrams of some kind of painkiller and pushed me into a very blue room. I hopped in the surgery bed and lay there for a bit as they prepared some stuff, and then I said, "Thanks guys for doing this," or something along those lines. And I remember the two female nurses being like, "Aw, thank you," while the male assistant kind of just looked up from the surgery table tools he was holding and awkwardly smiled at me. Not going to lie, a little bit creepy. Then, 10,000 things happened to me at once. And I will say happened to me is the correct phrasing. From this point on, I felt remarkably passive and not agenty. I'm not sure if that's because of the drugs they gave me or something, but 3 different pairs of hands did various things to me all at once and in a very rushed manner, and I felt like I just became an object. I lost all sense of being a cauzy sort of being. However, while I have no idea what else happened to me, I do distinctly remember one of the nurses holding my hand as they put the anesthesia into my veins. And now, first off, you can feel it creep up your arm from the inside, which would probably have been more shocking if I hadn't donated plasma 7,000 times before. It feels similar to the cold saline they put in. But the part that was really weird is as the anesthesia progressed, each area it reached got spicy tingly. I don't know how better to describe it. It was akin to feeling you have when you smack your foot into something, but your foot is really asleep, except it was spicier. So yeah, the spicy tingly creeped up my arm and then into my head, and I don't remember anything else. However, I will say, the amount of comfort the one nurse gave by holding my hand was astronomically high. Holy cow, I have a new requirement. Someone must hold my hand whenever I die. It's ridiculous how much that trivial action meant to me in that moment. So yeah, if someone you know is dying, hold their hand. Full stop. Anyway, after that, I remember being quite sleepy, and then someone waking me up and asking me if I needed more time to sleep, after which I recall myself saying yes, and then I woke up for reals, and that was that. That was my experience of having surgery. Dad then drove me home. My armpit really didn't hurt. I watched a lot of Naruto, and Mom made me good food. I then took Ben and Grace. I then told Ben and Grace what was going on, because up to this point in time, only Mom and Dad knew. And then after more anime, I called Jode over, making it clear it was a non-trivial matter, and I broke the news to him. Honestly, he handled it amazingly well. So far, the best response, from my perspective, of anyone yet. Here's another life lesson. If you have traumatic news, tell Joe first. Maybe. I can imagine Joe shaking his head vigorously and being like, no, as I say this. Anyway, we played some Magic, talked for 2 hours, and then he went back home, and I pulled up Naruto again and waited for Neo and Noah to arrive so I could break the news to them. However, despite the granted ambiguous and non-trivial wording in my text, they didn't arrive until midnight, so I was pretty tired at that point. But nevertheless, I broke the news to them that I had cancer, since it wasn't confirmed until then. As for the responses, they were so much worse than Joe's. Neo responded in such a way that would have been appropriate if I just told him I had absolutely bombed my thermo exam, and I was sad about it. Noah, he just full send cognitive dissonance and fell back on his old reliable ductless AC unit technique. So yeah, it was a much less graceful taking of the news on both their parts, but at least they tried, I think. Wednesday, I, being on narcotics, wasn't in any significant pain, so I slept well, which was nice. That day, I didn't do more than a bit of philosophy class planning and a lot of anime, so nothing really notable happened. Thursday, I woke up, did some more philosophy class work, watched some anime, and then went back to sleep. The next time I woke up, I saw I missed a call from the hospital, and that's when I called back, and they broke the news that I did indeed have Hodgkin's lymphoma. And now I know this is going to sound weird, but when I first heard that, I audibly exclaimed, yes, and proceeded to be very happy. See, the reason that response was appropriate was because right after the surgery, the surgeon had talked to Dad and told him that the tumor didn't look like Hodgkin's lymphoma he was used to seeing. Hence, in my mind, the odds had gone way up that it was some other more problematic kind of cancer. Because, you see, you have to understand that Hodgkin's lymphoma is one of like the 3 cancers out there that can, be cured. AKA, you're likely to live if you get them. But that's not true for non-Hodgkin's varieties. Hence, learning I had Hodgkin's lymphoma and not some other kind of lymphoma was literally like saying, you're not going to die. Hence, I was very excited. Now, mind you, I could still die. It's just the chances of that are significantly lower since I have this particular kind of cancer. So yeah, I broke the news to Mom and the family, saying it was confirmed that I did indeed have cancer. And while Mom proceeded to become significantly distressed, I was still beaming. So it was a very strange moment of juxtaposition. So yeah, that happened. And over the next few hours, the excitement of not dying gave way to the sadness of having cancer. But nevertheless, I pushed through and taught philosophy class over the bioengineering building. If I'm honest, it wasn't really me teaching much. I was still on narcotics at this point, so my mind was fuzzy. I couldn't think super clearly. But it was mostly just an exercise in philosophy practice. A.k.a. Neo, Joe, and Noah all talked to each other the whole time. And yeah, I think it went well. At the end of it all, I told them about my official diagnosis, and we all sadly walked back to the cars. I couldn't go to sleep after that, so I ate yogurt like ice cream. I now understand why people do that. And then I went on a sad walk over at City Park and back. And still, I wasn't able to cry, so I kind of just went to sleep feeling hollow. So yeah, that was Thursday. Friday, man, that was a day. I wrote the I have cancer email, which I sent to all of you, and then I started responding to the responses that came in and also telling all my professors and classmates the news. Honestly, having to tell everyone I had cancer made the truth hit way harder than it had before. And while the damage incurred wouldn't normally have been enough to knock me out emotionally, the flood of responses 100% took me out. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad you all care for me and you feel the pain of my situation because you know I feel it. But, like I said prior, I'm a ruthless pseudo-optimist. My typical response to bad things is either not be sad at all or, if I can help it, minimize the time in which I must be sad, and I did this very intentionally. See, as Aquinas says, sadness is the emotion that accompanies a judgment. A good that has once been available to you has been lost. But if I judge that the good was genuinely lost and it can't be recovered, there's clearly no point in dwelling upon the fact that the good has been lost, because it's lost. Hence, it makes more sense to figure out what goods can now be gained because the other good was lost. And so, of course, you could focus on the sort of good gaining judgments, you don't feel very sad. However, this strategy has one apparent flaw. It only works if you can control where your attention rests. And see, as you all responded, and me, being grateful to your expression of care, endeavored to show that gratitude by acknowledging your responses, it was as if 20 people were all yelling at me, Look! Look at this monumental good of health you've lost! Stare at it! Look deep into its eyes. Think about everything you've lost because of this good. Consider how horrible and life-ruining it is. And honestly, the pack tactics were too strong. I tried to get to work on this live email, but as the hours were on and the responses kept coming, I experienced something akin to depression for the first time. I think the word depression is distinct from sadness, both to note a distinction in phenomenological experience. Sadness feels achy, and depression feels empty, and a distinction in rational attitude. Sadness mourns the loss of a good, while depression makes it seem as if there are no more goods to be had. I had experienced severe achiness prior, but I'd never experienced emptiness like that before. Nothing really seemed worth doing. I sat there for an hour doing nothing at all. After that, I went to bed, not because I was tired, but because I didn't know what else to do with my life. And then after that, I slept, though I'm not really sure if I slept. Once I woke up, if I woke up, I just sat more. I migrated from my room to the living room at some point and tried to up my spirits by watching anime, but even that felt like a chore, and I wasn't interested. Ben and Mom noticed my state, and I think became fairly concerned because they've never seen me like this before, not being motivated to do things, and just about, which is close to the antithesis to my being. Heck, I've never seen me like this before. Hence, for 30 minutes, they tried suggesting things I could do, but just none of it sounded worth doing. And yeah, I spent the rest of the day until like 11 at night like that. At which point, most of the responses I received come in, and so, since I no longer had the motivation to do anything, I stopped responding to them and looking at them. Hence, it was only at that point, I realize now looking back, that I started to feel slightly motivated because the lack of negative feedback, or the loop of negative feedback, had stopped. I then worked up the motivation to watch some anime, which I understand is not typically an accomplishment, but in this particular state of being, it was definitely an accomplishment, and things got better from there. Before I went to bed that night, I was able to write something in my Google Docs diary equivalent. Also, I stopped my pain meds so I could feel the pain in my surgical wound, which oddly helped me out a little bit. At the tail of the Friday night, I began to pull out of my mini depression. However, before I left the depression state entirely, I thought of / modified a very good quote. If you live too long in the abyss begins to live in you. Unfortunately for the abyss, the country of Alexander has a U+2 law in place, and there's already a trinity in there, so the abyss just got evicted. So yeah, that really sucked, but I'm glad I had the experience, so now I can kind of get how people, with reals depression feel, and the phenomenological experience is useful. Though I think that one time is enough. Thank you very much. Saturday, I wasn't feeling good by any means, but at least, I was feeling anything, so that was nice. I then met up with Alan for a walk at the nature reserve area by Liberty High School, and we just walked and talked for a while. Honestly, it was a really good conversation, and it facilitated my emotional recovery excellently. I then went over to Neo City's house, where they were kind enough to give me a sense of post-cancer, normalcy, with some old-fashioned Halo, and honestly, that was very helpful. Just getting to do things like I used to, even though things had changed so much, really helped me become steadier. I stayed up late with Neo, City, and Alan that night, and I went to church the next morning. Honestly, I was really dreading the whole experience, as I anticipated just being really awkward with all these random people that didn't really know coming up and hugging me. And honestly, it was so much better than I anticipated. Sure, with a few moments of awkward death, like when Becky smiled and attempted to give me a conversation. Okay, that was death. Also, PK gave me a very close and awkward hug, but the vast majority of the interactions were normal. Honestly, Joe, Karina, and Benj carried that day, at least from my perspective. And I expected it from Joe, but both Benj and Karina just did really well making it not awkward, so simultaneously surprised, impressed, and grateful. Honestly, the Southgate friend group handled my reintroductions fantastically, and I'm grateful to all of them for that, for reals. So yeah, we got donuts and played Magic with various persons until like 5, and it was great. Once I got home, I watched Nichijou with Grace, and oh my gosh, that anime is fantastic. I think I didn't fully appreciate it the first time I watched it, but, I then went over to Neo and Sydney's and played Magic with Neo. Sydney and John originally, and then just Neo until 3 in the morning. Yesterday, I woke up at 12, got a few things I need to get done, and then hung out with Braden for 5 hours, mostly played Magic. I got to play my CDH deck, and out of 3 games, I lost to Braden's CDH deck twice, so I lost overall. But I was definitely competitive. And yeah, we didn't talk much, but honestly, it was cool, and since I was still recovering emotionally a bit, that was nice. After that, I drove to Monday nights, and we watched with Furry and played Magic, and that was it. Then finally, we come to today. Today, I've gotten my first quiet time in way too long, since I got to study some philosophy in the morning. And then I had Funime, and ever since, I've been working on this. So yeah, before I end, I have a few more things to say that are not chronological. First, as for my state emotionally at the time of writing, I think I've made a full knee recovery. I'm pretty much back to my normal self, and I will be probably good until treatment starts. As for treatment, I don't know what the plan is yet. I have my first pediatric appointment on Friday. It's actually an oncology appointment, but don't worry about that. And I'll know more then. However, until that point, I don't have any more information that I sent in the email that I sent out last Friday. So also, please do send me a letter if you haven't, by the way. I'm doing fine now. I really could have used a letter when I was in my mini depression phase. So if something like that happens again, I'd like to be prepared. You're all my emotional health pack providers. As for other states of affairs, I've quit my job and dropped out of school in preparation for the upcoming treatment. And I will say that I haven't technically dropped out of school yet, but that's only because if I drop out now, the government will make me pay $10,000 back to them. And I would, if I just wait for another month, I get to keep that aid. So I'll be waiting. But in effect, I've dropped out of school. I don't know what my treatment will, I don't know if my treatment will be done in time where coming back to school next semester will be possible. We'll have to see about that come Friday. Otherwise, not much has changed. I had to dish out all my savings for medical bills, so I'm broke now. But it's not like that changes all that much. I just have more of a poverty mindset, maybe. So yeah, as for external things... that's for external things. There's one more thing I'd like to say, and I think that's... there's one thing I'd like to say, and that's I received a lot of, if there's anything I can do sort of messages. Let me know. And those are just the worst, so let me explain why. First, if there's anything I can do, message. If there's anything I can do message. From here on out, the ITAICD message varies widely in meaning. When my classmates say it, well, most of them, they mean, I won't do anything for you unless you explicitly demand it of me, even then I may only do it if I'm compelled by social convention, not because I actually care about you. When some of you say it, you mean, if you really need me, I'll step up and help you. But otherwise, unless you make that request, I'm going to treat you as if you're the same. And then finally, some of you mean it in the, I would love to do something for you, but I don't know what to do. So if you could just tell me what to do, I will do it sense. Now, I find both the second and third sense of the ITAICD acceptable, though obviously the latter is preferred, as I think the latter is demanded by the Friendship Office. Well, I think only the former is demanded by the Friendship Office. So I wouldn't fault you if you said the ITAICD in the first classmatey sense. No, I would fault you if you said it in that sense. And that's just, and you only said it because social convention compels you. If any of you said it in the first sense and then use some other phrase, if any of you meant it in the first sense, then please use some other phrase in the future, because that does more harm than good, at least for me. Hence the ambiguity of the ITAICD as regards its precise meaning, and hence its bad phrase. All three interpretations of the ITAICD burden is placed upon the burden is placed upon the sufferer to put out active effort for their own well-being. And while this makes some sense in the second interpretation, as only the sufferer can know, it really can only know if they really need someone to go out of their way to help them. It's hard because the sufferer can have a plethora of reasons not to want to take the active effort. These can range from feeling not emotionally fatigued due to suffering, or not wanting to impose on the utterer of the ITAICD, lest they cross lines of socially acceptable behavior and do damage to the relationship. The point is, there are a lot of reasons I can think of not to make a request of you, even if you meant the ITAICD in the third sense. Hence, effectively, the ITAICD ensures a very high likelihood you won't actually end up giving any aid, and thus makes it a bad phrase if you care and want to actually offer help. For both these reasons, I think the ITAICD is very helpful. And so, if you really want to use it, please make explicit what sense you mean it in. And also want to make it clear, I very much respect you ITAICD sense 2 users. Obviously, ITAICD 2 users look bad when compared with the ITAICD 3 users, but that's only by a comparison. Having people who are willing to help me if I really need it is still very comforting, and I think, in general, what it means to be a friend. Some people happen to have the disposition of an ITAICD 3er, and perhaps some very close friends might have the duty of an ITAICD 3er. But I'm not quite sure on that. I'll just have to think about that. Either way, if you would like or are a ITAICD 3er, I have put together a list of 7, kind of 8, low-effort ITAICD 3er actions that would genuinely appreciate you doing for me. The list is as follows. Write me an encouraging, funny, or otherwise memorable letter or note. I don't know. I guess words of affirmation are my love language or something. I like physically written things. Ask me about philosophy or something I'm interested in. Obviously, this is not something I always like. There are definitely times when you should very much not do this. But in general, I love talking about philosophy, and thus asking a good philosophy question will just mean I have a good conversation, and that'll feel nice. Unless it's a dumb question. And yes, there are such things as dumb questions. So don't ask me those. They'll hurt my soul. Food. I like food. What can I say? There's a direct correlation between me having food and positive emotional states. So if anyone finds a way to get, food, or make a pretzel bacon pub burger, I will make an icon of you and venerate you for at least a week. Offer to hang out one-on-one. I like one-on-one hangouts, proportionally more than most other hangouts. In most cases, just getting catch up at a coffee shop while walking around campus is a very good experience. Buy me anime merch. I understand it's incriminating to say this, but I like anime things, okay? I'm not talking like a body pillow or anything extreme like that, but like a sticker or a poster, maybe a shirt if it's really cool, that kind of thing. Also, I shall link my anime ranking list in case anyone cares to pursue this option. Also, Redbubble has a lot of good merch if you're looking for ways to buy things. Offer to just sit with me / join me while I do normal things in life. I don't know, just join me while I watch anime or study philosophy, or just sit in the sun or whatever. I just like to be, have people be physical present, even if we don't talk or act otherwise. Invite me to the thing you and everyone else is doing. Just invite me to things, even if you know I can't or won't come because I'm sick or going through chemo or whatever will make me feel included and wanted. And while it may generate a bit of FOMO, the former effect is still much greater than the latter. Plus, if you do this, will help ensure that I have the opportunity to have a good time with friends, and that will be big and important for my mental health. And then finally, do something creative that shows you put thought in. Basically something that's like a neat idea I didn't think of. Like maybe you buy me a cheap wig with robust green curls that I can wear, which obviously isn't real hair. Or maybe you make me a not dead yet sticker to put on my bumper. Stuff like that. These are the things that I can think of that I would genuinely appreciate, and most of them are pretty low cost of effort, so you're welcome. It just turned out that way. That said, all of you ITAICD tours, if you notice I'm in abject suffering, either physical or emotional, note I won't likely reach out because if I'm because I think asking things of people who don't gently want to give them is a really bad idea. But if you notice, and not if it's like subtle, spare if it's obvious, that means I'm doing specifically bad enough that I have reached a sufficient threshold that you should activate and become ITAICD 3ers. The fact is, I'm very good at controlling my emotional states and slightly above average at dealing with physical pain. Thus, if it's clear that I'm in either one of those states, that means I'm suffering enough to need your action. And with that, I think that's all I have to say. Thanks to all of you for keeping up with what's going on for me and for caring. I'll get back to you in a week or so for the next installation of Cancer Era Life emails. Send me an email if you think you got a better name for the era, because I think I need it.